Hello, hello. I'm recording this on a Mercury night on technically the 20th of March, so Thursday. It was 1:11 a.m. The sun is in Pisces and the moon is in Sagittarius. And yeah, I just wanted to mention a few things about this Spring Equinox, Aries season. It's when the sun enters the sign of Aries, which will be at 2:01 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the 20th. I'm sorry, on the 20th. Oh yeah, so like in an hour. There's so many signatures of a healing of the feminine and the masculine. Mars was retrograde through 6 degrees Leo, and it re-entered Cancer, and it's been in Cancer since January 6th. It went direct on February 24th at 17 degrees. And it's only at about 20 degrees at the moment, so it's been traveling pretty slowly, and it's in a square to Chiron in Aries, and so that allows us to, be triggered and experience these wounds so that we can work through them and heal them. And the masculine energy, which of course we all know and probably have experienced either through family members or, sons or brothers or husbands, who have not been able to fully express their creativity, not be able to fully express their emotions. It's been programmed and instilled in us, or in the masculine, to suppress those energies, which, what are they supposed to do with all of that emotion? It ends up coming out in unproductive ways, destructive, and often dangerous ways to their loved ones, in the form of abuse, or abuse to others, physical abuse, verbal abuse, psychological, you name it. And so now all of this is coming back up, and like the patriarchy has also fed into this, if not has been a key component of this suppression. And so yeah, it's been a process of uprooting these toxic traits and reversing what has been reversed. And a lot of healing is in the process. And while the masculine is in the process of healing, the feminine is now also in the process of healing, as she is. Venus is retrograde at the moment, and she is in Aries, retrograded at 10 degrees Aries, and is moving back to Pisces on the 27th. And she'll retrograde back to 24 degrees in 37 minutes. Which is crazy. It's right on my south node to the minute. And she will go direct on April 12th. And between now and then, Venus and the Sun will meet up, which will be a Cazimi, and it'll also mark a Venus star point. And the Venus star point is when the Sun and Venus, or Venus and the Sun, conjoin in these particular 5 signs that creates a 5-pointed star. And they only shift about 1 or 2 or 3 degrees each time it conjoins, and so it creates this really cool pattern. I don't know if you guys had those stencils where you put your tip of a pen or a pencil in it, and you draw in this like plastic circle, and it creates a pattern. It's that kind of effect, and it's the most reliable, consistent pattern besides Neptune. Neptune also retrogrades and has consistent cycles, changes signs every 14 years. It doesn't have this like weird elliptical pattern like Pluto. Like Pluto spends a different amount of time in each sign, but Neptune spends the same amount of time in each sign. So we can rely on the patterns of Venus and Neptune. But Neptune is considered to be the higher octave of Venus. They are both connected to imagination and creativity. Neptune is connected to the collective consciousness, or the collective unconsciousness. It's that collective or blanket emotion that we feel whenever we experience or witness a global event, or someone of prominence passes away, or something big happens. We all share that emotion, and that is Neptune. And then Venus is the love that we share on an earthly plane, like what we attract, what we like, how we go about attaining those things that we like, those possessions. And so it can be tactile, it can be, love is intangible, but with Venus, it's that person to person, or I feel like Neptune would be like that animal of Venus. On the 27th, Venus will retrograde back into Pisces, and on the 28th, Venus and Neptune will conjoin again. So that'll be a beautiful day to take advantage of and get creative, create some sort of music, art, writing, cooking. I mean, even playing with your kids, playing with your pets, you know, just being in that playful, heart-centered space where you're not worried, you're not concerned about what the outcome is, if you're getting paid for whatever you're producing, if anybody's going to see this. So once Venus and the Sun meet up, the Sun will continue to move forward in like that forward path, and Venus will continue retrograding back into Pisces and will become a morning star, and she will become visible in the sky after about 15 degrees of separation from the Sun. So that makes it around the 30th or 31st of March, where you'll be able to see Venus shine in the sky, in the morning sky. So the myth of that reemergence of Venus as a morning star is connected to the myth of Inanna. And I mean, I'm not able to really go back and narrate the details of her myth, but definitely I can link Heather Ensworth video, and she explains the myths beautifully. But it is kind of like this rebirth of values and like receiving that energy and that revitalization from the Sun and stepping into her power even more so. And like every time she is reborn through these Venus Cazimis, these conjunctions with the Sun, she emerges again as a, you know, stronger, more powerful feminine energy in the sign that she is reemerging into. So this time she's reemerging in the sign of Pisces, and so those Pisces energies, those healing energies of Pisces, intuitive, compassionate, healing, just accepting, forgiving, like all of those beautiful traits and archetypes of Pisces is what will be infused in this new Venus cycle. And I kind of peeked into the future a little bit to see when Mars and the Sun would conjoin, when it would be the Mars Cazimi. And it's not until January 6th or 7th of next year, so 2020. And it's not just a Mars Cazimi, but it's a Venus and Mars Cazimi. So Venus, Mars, and the Sun will be conjoined at 17 degrees. And 17 degrees is a special degree. Personally, like one is connected to leadership, and 7 is connected to spirituality. So 17 being spiritual leadership is so prominent, and we'll probably be seeing a lot of examples and just, you know, these embodiments of spiritual leadership. And with Neptune moving into the sign of Aries at the end of the month, on the 30th of March, that's totally spiritual leadership. Like Neptune is spirituality. I mean, it is also like the collective consciousness. And in the sign of Aries, Aries is a fire sign. It's leadership. It's being the first. It's taking risks, being daring, being protective, and it's like that spiritual warrior. And so the 17 degree, I mean, that's in, you know, 2026, but just to give you some sort of idea of the direction that we are collectively going in. Like there's this birth canal that we're in right now, and I consider it to be like a rebirth, for sure, but it's like the birth of a breached baby who's, you know, in the process of being turned right side up in order for the head to come out, for the crown to come out first. But it's, yeah, not an easy process, and it can feel very scary, and like we are that baby, and the universe is reversing the reverse, and like reconfiguring us so that we are able to come out right side out. So if we are aware, if we learn about what has been done in the past, how we had been flipped around, we would understand that like this birthing process, this breached position that we're in right now, it's going to take some trust and like heroic surrender to be turned around. We can't, you know, fight it. We can't resist. The more we resist, the harder it's going to be. You know, like think about how the umbilical cord, like if you move the baby around in like the wrong way, the umbilical cord can be caught around their neck. So we just have to be very relaxed and trust that the universe knows what to do. And it's these energies that we've never experienced before, but we have so much power right now energetically and with our thoughts and our words to manifest whatever it is that we want, as long as it's in integrity. So a couple things about the spring equinox. So when the sun moves into Aries, this will be on the 20th, so in about half an hour or so. The moon will be at 6 degrees Sagittarius, and which is ruled by Jupiter, and this is happening on a Thursday, which is Jupiter's day. We look at Mars as the ruler of Aries, and Aries is at 20 degrees Cancer. And out of curiosity, I looked at the Sabian symbols for 7 degrees Sagittarius, because Sabian symbols we round up, and for 7 degrees Sagittarius it is, and this is from Dane Rudyard's website, mindfire.ca. And so 7 degrees Sagittarius is a Cupid knocks at the door of a human heart. So it's like a stirring up of individual longings for romantic love or emotional rebirth. So this is like a very passionate, hopeful kind of sign, if you ask me. And for Mars and Cancer at 21 degrees, the Sabian symbol is a famous singer is proving her virtuosity during an operatic performance. A famous singer is proving her virtuosity during an operatic performance. So the emotional reward accompanying cultural excellence, the price of success for the individual as well as for the collective acclaiming him or her. What is success really worth? A question few people ask. So I kind of, and I also like to connect it to degree theory, and 6 is connected to Virgo, and Virgo is the sign that is like in service to others. Virgo likes to make improvements, can be critical in order to improve what is wrong or what could use some improving. So being of service, being of use. And Virgo is also considered to be, it's like that selfless, Virgo Pisces is along that axis of selfless service. And then 20, Mars being at 20 degrees, 20 is a Scorpio degree. This can be connected to really deep psychological healing, like going to the depths of the psyche, where we don't typically like to go, and it's like those taboo topics that have been suppressed or swept under the rug that have not been resolved. And Mars is making a square to Chiron in Aries, Chiron at 21 degrees. So this can definitely be stirring up some old wounds. But with Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Scorpio, Black Moon Lilith is the darker side of the moon, and it's meant for us to feel into, to explore those shadows and work through them, whether it's like an internal journey, where you're writing and talking to a therapist or an astrologer, or creating your own sort of healing center. It's not something that you necessarily have to set up a meeting with whoever you are in this estranged kind of battle with. Like, their healing can take place when they're ready, but we can all take responsibility of our own healing. We don't have to wait for anyone to be ready to go see a therapist together. You can do the healing on your own. You can start your own healing journey, and that's part of the Aries energy as well, is taking the initiative to heal yourself. I feel like that's a lot of what Neptune in Aries is going to be as well, like spiritual leadership, but also like taking the lead in your healing journey, in your spirituality, like just coming to terms with all that has happened to you and processing it, and really like moving through it and understanding it without the need or approval or explanation from whoever it is that's there's a karmic relationship with. So there's a lot of intentions that can be set during this particular equinox, spring equinox, and the same thing that you probably did celebrating the Gregorian New Year, January 1st, opening the doors, getting rid of the old, and spending time in nature, like appreciating the new growth, the new fresh flowers. That's something that we can actually take advantage of during the real astrological New Year. January 1st, it's like the dead of winter, and it's like there's no new growth, there's no flowers that are blooming. Like, it is spring equinox, which is now, where flowers are blooming, and you can actually smell the new air, the freshness. The Gregorian New Year, it's been tradition to set New Year's resolutions, and that can be considered setting intentions for the spring equinox or the astrological New Year. And with the moon in Sagittarius and Mars in Cancer, and like the moon and the sun are in both fire signs, and so they're making a harmonious aspect to one another, so they're in agreement with this action that's being taken. And so there's like a sense of adventure and service to others, kind of like this risk-taking, optimistic sort of intention, and trying something new. Like in the sign of Aries, it's like being the first in your family, or being the first, whatever it is, to try this path, like go down this path and see what happens. And like I've said before, this is totally like a trial and error kind of approach that is best taken right now, because this is all brand new to all of us. I mean, we're not going back to what we were doing before. We know that we've already experienced that, and we know that whatever it was didn't bring us that fulfillment. And so now we are figuring out, like, learning what brings us joy and just going for it, without being overly concerned about any sort of payment, or any sort of like income. And that's part of the South Node in Virgo, is the letting go of these details, and like, how am I gonna make this payment, and how much am I going to make per hour? Like that's the stuff that's going to be diminished with the South Node in Virgo. And the North Node in Pisces wants us to just trust, like heroic surrender, trust, and having all the faith that everything will work itself out, as long as we are in our integrity. Especially with Saturn there in the mix in Pisces at 23 degrees when the sun enters Aries. So, yeah, all the things that we have been doing for the Gregorian January 1st New Year, we can apply to the real astrological New Year, spring equinox, taking place in less than half an hour. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention those couple things. And the moon in Sagittarius is making a beautiful trine to Mercury at 7 degrees Aries, Venus at 4 degrees Aries, and the sun. So these are flowing energies to reflect on. I mean, Venus and Mercury are retrograde at the moment, so not exactly the time to commit to any sort of new relationship or project or anything like that, but definitely a good time to research and collect information. And then when Venus goes direct in April, mid-April, and Mercury goes direct, I think April 9th or 7th, then after that we can start to narrow down our options in order to make decisions. So hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully that made sense. And yeah, all the best. Happy astrological New Year. Happy spring equinox. Thanks for sticking around, and I hope to see you on the next one. All the best.